here goes nothing. So this is how we're looking. Just realised they need a bit more trimming at the top. But you can see I've got plenty of space left in here, to the point where I actually feel I need to make the signatures bigger still before I'm ready to sew them in. I chose some fantasy, I mean, you know what I mean, kind of images as the cover page for my signatures. And now I'm going through covering bits of text I don't want and just sort of checking to see how it's looking, whether I'm happy with it. And so far so good. I've kept the beautiful paintings in the centre. These beautiful images, they're so funny. I love them. They're from Jim Henson's Labyrinth, I think. And so I was just playing with scraps to see how I could cover this up, and I came across these offcuts from something and thought, well, I'll use them, and I'll use them as they are. And I thought, I'm just going to glue them like this, and thought I'd bring you along for the ride. Probably way too much glue on that one. I feel like I want them to open up a different way each side, just to be a bit quirky. Oh, that's okay, that one there, and then I've got one more that can go here. Do you remember I spoke about how I like to have a kind of a story that goes through as I'm building the journal? So I use those oil paintings for the centre of my signatures, and then I added, various eco-dyed, handmade, and interesting greenish brownish papers to go with my cover. And then in each signature I've added, this is some of Dad's old science pages, which I've just added some watercolour to. Then I've added flowers and music and birds. So my mum was a really keen birder, so I like to have birds in my books. And of course my dad was a scientist, so I like to have some of his science papers in my books. And then I thought, so it's got this nice painting that reminds me of my life, because they're all paintings from areas that I'm very fond of and familiar with. Then I've got all these other reminders, and then I thought, but really what represents me now, and me malicious? Well, not malicious really, but quirky, like just things that make me laugh, things that are a bit odd, a bit funny. Yeah, I think if something makes you laugh, it's a really good indicator that that's a good way to go. And for some reason, so this first one, I just love that. I mean, that kind of, coffee splat, reminiscent of the pressed fairies, and all these creatures of the imagination. Like, we all have these ideas and imaginings and things that live inside us. Confusion, fear, anger, all these little creatures. And this sort of illustration is just like it brings some of those to life. We can all read these, and although we might understand them or read them differently, they're recognizable. They're recognizable little sprites and imps and elves, and this makes me think of siblings. I had a very cranky older sister. Anyway, so there we go. That's my cute little flip. Waste not, want not. This one I'll probably put a pocket in later to cover that, or I might leave it. It's just a little bit about goblins. These are okay, these are okay. Everything else in here I can pretty easily decorate or add things to later. I just felt like I wanted to cover up any text. So like this, where it's quite close to where I'm going to be stitching. Greg. One of those mischievous little goblins that substitute margarine for the butter in the dish. It may be that I'm simply trying to delay the sewing in of the signatures. It's not my favourite job. But really, I do want to, I do need to, I didn't show you this, I do need to do this on each of these book pages to reinforce where they were previously stitched. So that is actually the main thing that I'm doing now. And in the meantime, using up some scraps. Have a shiny side and a matte side, and I prefer the matte side to write on. So I'm going to glue this shiny side in. And the nice thing about this flimsy paper, oops, is that glue stick is just fine for covering things. For sticking things. You can still actually read that bit of story. But you could also write over the top. And I'm going to leave that there so that there's just extra to do. Okay. This one, extinct mammal, I might leave that there. That's kind of cute. And in here I have, oh, this one, look, Grumpy. Don't you love Grumpy? This was from a larger book. Don't need to reinforce that spine. All of those things can get fixed. Okay, that's that one. So I will need to trim.
One thing at a time. Okay, this one's going to need some covering. Getting last year for that.
I just love the way these old, this was from an old notebook of Dad's, and the avocado went such a pretty colour. Get such a range of pinks and sometimes purples when you dye with avocados. Q is convinced that organic avocados give the best colour. Her housemate used to eat organic ones, so she had an endless supply. And I think we still have a bag in the freezer, so Perhaps the next batch of avocado dye, we'll find out. Okay, I'll do that side and then this side for apron. Done, 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 done. I love this. First you have the flowers, then you have the insects. Doesn't that just sum up gardening? Okay, I think those are all okay. And on the last one I have this gorgeous winged, rather scary looking critter. All right, once more with feeling.
Now, of course, the other reason it's good to do this is because it will flatten. It'll flatten everything out. So, I feel like I have a lot of extra room before I sew this journal. Just like I fill it with all sorts of stuff, I guess. But I think I'm up to 10 pages, 10 double pages like this in each signature. And I'm just wondering whether I should increase that or add an extra signature, of course. Could do that. It'll still have room to grow with pockets and tucks and whatever else might get put in there. I don't like them to look, meager. I like them to look generous. Not huge daily amount, but like there's a substantial amount in them. Oh no. I seem to remember this didn't want to rip. No. It's very fibrous. See that? Oh look. Does not even like the colour. Guessing this might need the heavier duty glue as well. I think it goes this way. My apologies if I'm wrong. I just like it as a textural piece rather than anything I could read. Now, where's the rest? Over here. Okay. I think it's just these pages.
They're a bit tall. And that definitely needs trimming before I sew them in because that would be too difficult afterwards. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't cut them down quite short enough because I didn't want to lose too much of the illustration, but needs must. Sorry, Zitsy. I'm using a bit more of your head. Oh, and this one. This guy's not too. Oh, just a little bit. Okay. Oh, they're still pretty tall. I think I might need a little bit more trimming on some of those. That one's sticking up so far. It must be incredibly boring.